But it's amazing with some of the big players in this game that somebody hasn't slipped away and gotten a few points, or at least got down there for a field goal. But a couple of close opportunities that the Eagles have had, they were stopped once and failed on another field goal attempt. But right now, if the Eagle defense could come up with this stop, that would be huge. That would probably fuel their offense to take that ball out from the shadows of their own goalpost. But it's going to be tough because Council Rock in this second half has begun to rely on their size. We mentioned at the beginning that that starting line for Council Rock up front outweighs Norristown by 12 pounds a man, and they're probably going to go behind their size.
The big guy up there, of course, is number 54, Ed Johnson, 6'6", 276 pounds. He is one of the most highly recruited linemen in America this year, according to some reports.
And if you go on the other side of center, it's 6'1", 277.
There it is, touchdown.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, Brian Webster shaking his head a little bit. He had Wade wrapped up at the 4-yard line, and Wade just so big with that momentum, broke free from Webster, pushed his way into the end zone, and that's the first points of this game on the first play of the fourth quarter.
And I was mentioning that 6'1", 277 Ray Stefanak, and he's their other big guard. And boy, those guys can really wear you down. I think we just saw some of that from Norristown.
Unique formation here as they go for the extra point. Cheffo, the holder. The kick is up, it's low, and it is no good. No good. That could be a big, big consideration in this ball game. The kicker that time, number 26, Justin Shacker, and he just missed it.
Yeah, he missed it badly off to the right, too, and I think some of that might have been some of the pressure coming from the right side of the Norristown line. Made Shacker push it well to the right.
So Norristown finds itself trailing in this ball game, 6-0. The Eagles will now look to get that offense back on track. And, Walt, we're seeing something in this game that we've seen a lot this year from Norristown, the ability to move the ball tremendously, let's say from the 30 to the 30. And then all of a sudden it seems to die down close. The Eagles just unable to punch it into the end zone in certain circumstances, and we've seen it again today.
And some of those cases we've seen them push back by penalties to where they're forced into a first and second and third and long situation. They're not really a very good long yardage team. Today it hasn't been that way at all. They've been stopped on a one drive that they got right down to the 1-yard line, and then another drive where Council Rock really started to key on their running game. So they're back to a point now where they have to stay with their strength, but they also have to keep Council Rock honest because they're starting to load up that line of scrimmage.
It'll be Swittenberg and Stewart, the deep players, joined back there by Darrell Johnson, along with number 32, Tony Mazzarella. Mike Cahan, the kicker, goes to Johnson at about the 14-yard line. Darrell Johnson brings it up the middle of the field. Finds a little bit of running room. He's got a man on his back now, though, and that tackler, number 45, Sean Butler. And Darrell Johnson gives the Eagles solid field position again at their own 33-yard line. The Eagles certainly can't complain about field position today, Walt. They have had fairly good position almost every time out. They haven't had spectacular possession necessarily, except for the interception by Milligan late in the first half. Jim Zitzer goes in motion to the far side. Chris Blake, the quarterback. He's got time over the middle. He's got Milligan open. And I'll tell you what, Don Milligan is having a heck of a ball game today. He makes a fantastic catch, and he knows he's going to be hit hard that time by number 2, Mahoney, and he was, but Don Milligan pulls it down. We're going to have a timeout for a measurement.
Sure, and you know when you go across that middle and you have to go up high, especially against a defense that is as hard-hitting as the Indians are, you know you're going to get hit, but Milligan just focused in on that ball, and the smart thing to do, as soon as you get your hands on that ball, you pull it into your body so that nobody can knock it free. That's what Milligan did, showing really good receiver skills, and it's down to an inch again for the Eagles. Going to be second and an inch. Jeff, the Eagles really have had good field position today. Their defense has not been a bend but don't break. They've really not allowed the Indians much at all. That 10-play drive that Council Rock just scored on was by far their longest of this game.
And of course, made effective by the long pass play on 3rd down. 2nd and inches, as Walt just told you. Fumble on the exchange. Swittenberg after it. Tough to tell. We'll wait for the officials to sort it out. Play is away from us. Blake seems to believe that it's Norristown ball, and apparently it is. We have another stoppage for another measurement. I don't think they've got it based on that ball is almost directly in front of us. It looks like about the same spot it was before. Yep, still short. Looks like about another inch. Looks like about 4 inches maybe. Lost an inch on that fumbled exchange between Blake and Swittenberg. Eagles fortunate to retain possession there.
And there wasn't any pressure on that exchange. It looked like Chris Blake just never put it into the belly of Troy Swittenberg. So now Norristown with another 3rd and short call. And this is absolutely crucial to keep this drive going after the Indians have just scored.
Well, there's a good crowd here today at Roosevelt Field, but a subdued crowd. Not too much to cheer about down on the field of play in this defensive struggle. Not a lot of excitement down there. Norristown looking to change that right here on 3rd and short. Swittenberg has the 1st down, takes it to the outside, eludes a tackler down the sideline, steps out of bounds, but I tell you what, great job by Troy Swittenberg. That young man has tremendous balance.
He really does. It's almost impossible to knock him off his feet. You have to bring him down. You can't just lay a hit on him and have him go to the ground. But that's because he's so low to the ground, and he runs with that straight-up style. But he's very good at taking a hit, and you never really get a clean shot on him.
So on 3rd and inches, Swittenberg with the big gain takes it into Council Rock territory. 1st and 10 Norristown from the 42-yard line. Swittenberg on the pitch, cuts it up inside. He's got a blocker out front. He's finally corralled. That was Yaboa Cabold out front blocking.
And Swittenberg waited for Cabold to get there. He wanted Cabold to come up, and as Cabold tried to lock on, Swittenberg cut behind him, but it was a little bit too early. And the defender was able to jump out there and bring Swittenberg down.
Picks up about 5 on the play, however, bringing up 2nd and 5 from the 37-yard line. Time remaining 10 minutes here. The Eagles trail the Indians 6-0. Chris Blake looks to pass down the middle. Oh, intercepted. Chris Blake underthrows Josiah Perry, and a great job by Chris Mahoney. Picks that ball off the turf, and that's a tough pill to swallow for Norristown. They're moving the ball effectively, a big gainer, and they turn it over here at the 27-yard line of Council Rock.
Wow, what can you say? You just have to wonder what Chris Blake saw there. It looked like he was trying to put some touch on it, and looked like the play actually called for a ball zipped down the middle to his receiver. It was Josiah Perry behind Mahoney. It looked like Chris Blake was looking for.
Certainly put some pressure on the Norristown defense here to stop the Indians. There's Wade again, and Wade does not give up. Down low, it looks like Burrell wrapped up the ankles, and his teammates finished off the job. Picks up about 3 on that play, brings up 2nd and 7 with 9:15 to go in the ball game.
And the reason this game has been so quickly played in such a tight contest is because that's really the first mistake we've seen Chris Blake even come close to making today. Played an extremely good game, handled the ball very well out of that backfield, really distributing it well to his running backs and to his receivers. But now he's going to need the Norristown defense to pick him up a little bit.
With clock stoppage down on the field. One of the officials conferring with the Council Rock sideline. I'm not quite sure what's going on down there, but there is an animated discussion on the far sideline. Looks Looks like it's one of those situations where it's good that we don't have as many camera angles as some of the network folks do, because we don't want to read any lips
Camera
down
angles
there.
and mics. Definitely don't want any mics down there.
Matt Verbit sets the offense again. They go to Wade off the right side, near side of the field. There's Garvin Stewart wrapping him up high. Wade picks up several on the play, though. That time, Alex Wade came to the near side of the field, followed those blockers out front. Looks like Coleman, the wide receiver, out trying to block a little bit for him. Brian Webster and Darrell Johnson down at the bottom of that pile. Give him 6 yards on that carry, bringing up 3rd and 1. And a big defensive play here for Norristown. They love to get the ball back with 8 minutes to play in this ball game. Verbit, the handoff to Wade. There's the penetration. He's not going to get there. Who's the player down there? Is that Darrell Johnson on the bottom of that pile? I couldn't tell if that was Johnson or DeLucia that time, Walt, but there was great penetration there from the linebacking spot.
Johnson was the first one into the backfield, and just tremendous linebacker play. That's the guy who has to stop that play up when it's a 4th and short and a big guy like that. All you want your line to do is really just hold their ground, and then you got to have your linebackers come in and shoot through. Well played.
Kick goes to Milligan. He's going to let it roll, and oh, it takes a great Council Rock roll down inside the 15-yard line, where it's down at the Eagle 14. A tremendous punt that time by Chris Yates. Low liner. Milligan unable to field it. And of course, you want to stay away from that ball once it hits the ground. But bad break for the Eagles there. They are deep in their own territory with 7:15 to play in this ball game. Of course, the positive side, the big defensive stand there after the interception, keyed by that short yardage stop that Darrell Johnson just effected. So it's now back in Chris Blake's hands here. He and the Norristown offense will look to march 86 yards for a score.
Next time the heavy math comes out, we'll let Greg do it, okay?
The pitch to Swittenberg. Bounces off one guy, but he is ripped to the turf. Maybe a yard on that, if anything.
Yeah, Chris Blake needed his defense to pick him up, and they sure did that with the big stop. Looked like Norristown was going to get great field position, but Chris Yates put a great punt out there, and really that's all you can do. You had it exactly right, Jeff. Once that ball hits the ground, you got to get away, and Don Milligan, that's what he did. He just watched it roll, and all you can do is watch it roll and send the offense on the field.
Blake has protection, goes over the middle. Oh, he threw it into trouble. Hit Milligan in the numbers. A flag on the play, though. And I'm going to guess we had a little bit of interference there. With Don Milligan's great hands, it surprised me to see that ball drop to the turf. And apparently it was due to some contact before the ball arrived.
And it was Jack Smith who got there to hit Milligan. That is the call, pass interference on the Indians. It was Jack Smith before, Jeff, who we thought may have gotten there a little bit early, but they let it go that time. He got there just a fraction of a second earlier than before, and that was early enough to hit Milligan before the ball got there. But Don Milligan, a great receiver in so many ways. You can see his hands, you can see that happen, but really shields the defender well, and that's why it looks like every ball that's thrown to him is right at him, because he gets there, he gets to the spot he needs to get to, and that time it was all Don Milligan drawing that pass interference. Good throw by Chris Blake, too.
15 yards makes it 1st and 10 Eagles at their own 30-yard line. They fake the pitch, go to the quick hit for Garvin Stewart. He is clogged up, won't give up. Give Garvin Stewart credit to get back to the line of scrimmage, but there was just no hole there.
No, and that wasn't a very effective fake pitch by Chris Blake. He really didn't sell anybody, because had he let that ball go, he would have tossed it about back to the 10. So the fake pitch wasn't working on the Indians that time, and as Garvin Stewart, only 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, handled the ball, Council Rock was already in his backfield.
2nd and 10 for Norristown. Milligan to the left, Zitzer to the right. Garvin Stewart and Troy Swittenberg in the eye. Blake under pressure, sacked. 6-yard loss on the play, and I tell you, the Indians were coming from all sides there.
Boy, they brought the house on that one. They sure did.
Number 57, Andrew Wirtz, was the big player in the back there.
And they have that type of defense, which, when given the opportunity in a known situation, they really can come after you. They're a solid unit, play this traditional 4-3, but they'll load up and come when they know you're going to have to throw the ball, and I think that's another situation just like that right now for the Eagles.
And this is not the Eagles' strong point here. 3rd and 16. They send triple receivers right. They go to set up the screen. They've got it to Josiah Perry. He's got to break a couple tackles, though. Josiah Perry does a yeoman's job getting the ball out to the 36-yard line, but he's going to be short by about 4 yards. Picks up 12 on the play, and Chris Blake did a good job that time. They sent 3 receivers right. He drew the defenders in, dropped it off to Perry, but Perry really was by himself there after catching that ball.
Yeah, Perry found a good spot, but they had to keep enough linemen in to keep somebody off of Chris Blake, and at that point there was nobody out in front of Josiah Perry to block for him. The disadvantage of that screen, of course, is you only catch it a couple yards in front of your own line of scrimmage, so you have to run that 13 yards in this case for the Eagles to convert.
With 4:35 to go, Roger Grove elects to punt on 4th down. Morano's punt hits at about the 34-yard line and dies at the 30.